guys, what's going on? And welcome back to another Run Pure update. PGA is back in full swing and our members have been crushing it with all of the great content we've been putting out. And speaking of crushing it, we had some monster hits this past weekend thanks to our guy Sepp Straka, who was one of AP's top picks for the Honda Classic. The Discord was overflowing with big wins this weekend, including a monster shipper by JN Gendry 912, who won over $275K on DraftKings. AJG 12991 pulled in $100K on DraftKings as well, and of course, AP himself rode Straka to a $50K win to cap off a great PGA weekend for Run Pure Sports. We'll be producing PGA content throughout the week, both free and premium, including main slate and showdowns. So make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on those notifications so you don't miss out when we drop any content. And speaking of PGA, we are 1 week away from the Players Championship, one of the biggest events of the year. So let's recap last year's event when Big T took down the PGA Millie Maker.
Anytime I can get 4 par 5s with Bryson, I'll take Bryson still. I'll take my chances, but I'm taking JT at 20 to 1. I don't even care that we like the same dude. I got to find something in the mid-range here. Let's see.
Take Burns, you take Connors.
Yeah, definitely. I want Connors. I'm taking Sergio at 80 to 1 for my mid-range. Harmon's 225 to 1. Dylan Smith just made fun of me. Sergio, yeah, he's 80 to 1, Dylan Smith. Stop. Chris Myers says Big T is going to take advantage of himself tonight. That is not true either. The wife is waiting for me. I guarantee that. So, stop.
Yeah, wife's waiting for you.
All right, text me during the show asking me when I'm coming up, so stop.
Sign up today for a premium subscription to Run Pure Sports and take advantage of our combo deal with SaberSim to dominate in PGA as well as other sports this year. Access our content for all sports in addition to SaberSim's revolutionary DFS optimizer and projection system for one low monthly price. That's it for this week. As always, we will be back for more. Make sure you guys keep an eye out on Twitter. I've been giving out some PGA winners myself. But with that being said, make sure you do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got a new NASCAR show debuting this Sunday, but in the meantime, let's keep running pure.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. Joined by Mango and AP. Nice 5-game NBA slate. And yesterday, Glock, Gary, and Kurt were on the Saturday show. We're doing the weekend shows to close out the NBA year with football. Not on Sundays anymore. NBA prize pool is getting a little bigger, but Sundays, it's grind time. AP, you and I know we've been grinding on the core plays every single Sunday, even during football season. The weekends have been printers. People don't like grinding as hard on the weekends than they do for the weekdays. So excited to dive in, talk some hoops, 5 games, pretty decent slate. Got some news that we've already got. Most news we've already got. Biggest news on the slate, Dennis Schroder, which we'll get before lock 2. So we'll dive in. We'll pick some winners. Hit the like button for us, please. Hope you guys and girls are all having a great day. AP, I'll head over to you first. You and Glock switched. Usually you'll be on the Saturday show with the boys. Kurt and Gary, Glock will be on this show. You guys switched, though. Glad to have you on. How's your day going, and how's this slate looking for you?
Yeah, day's going good. Watching some golf, which is just brutal. Like, this course is playing so tough. These guys are getting beat up. It's fun to see, though. We're so used to these birdie fests and everything. So, it's fun to see. I hope Kirky could get a little win. That would be nice for our boy. But we'll see how this finish goes up. And then, yeah, nice little 5-gamer today. Sundays are always a little fun, a little dicey. Like, who knows if the guys went out last night? Who knows who's gonna, show up and play well?
Yeah, we do not have James Harden on this slate. So, that's the big one that we always worry about on Sundays. But yeah, Sundays are always interesting in the association because they're humans. They like to go out and have a little fun themselves too. The club can get you good on that Saturday. Man, I'll head over to you. How's your Sunday going? Any golf sweats you got going on right now? Are you in the NHL streets at all? What's going on with you? And tell the people what you got sweating today.
No, nothing crazy. Going to be doing some NBA, probably doing more MME FanDuel today. I don't love the DK weekend prize pools. They've been frustrating me all year, and I've been waiting and waiting for them to kind of come through. So showing it with my wallet a little bit today. I'm going to jump over and play some MME on FanDuel. Not sweating the golf too much. I will say I kind of pulled up the leaderboard before. I saw BigT was tweeting about it. Everyone said Rory McIlroy had this thing shipped on Thursday. Oh, he's going to win. It's just, let's settle down with the Thursday and Friday victory laps in the PGA streets. I'm definitely with Big T on that one. I saw him at I think Rory's at T16 or whatever, but golf is fun. I see Kirky at the top. I see some guys that the RPS guys were on definitely towards the top of the leaderboard. So it's a nice little fun sweat for the people. I'm sure we'll have some RPS logos at the top, and we'll be trying to do that in NBA as well.
Absolutely. Yep. Yesterday was a good night in the MMA streets. NASCAR is going on right now. A lot of winners to be picked. We always talk about it. One price for all the sports. Head over to Run Pure Sports if you're not a member. Check it out. You can also do the Saber Sim package, which is $150 a month, usually $170. They have the optimizer for all sports, so make sure to go check it out. Run Pure Sports. And also you can check out Keg's live show. He goes live for MMA, for NASCAR. He was on the NASCAR and MMA show with us at Run Pure Sports this weekend, which you can find on the YouTube channels. Hit the subscribe button. You'll get notified when we go live for those shows on the weekend and stuff. But Keg was picking winners with us. He's on the Keg live show, $40 a month. You can get his winners. So make sure you go check that out too. Hit the like button, hit that subscribe button for us, please. But we got 5 games. I say we dive into it right away. How the slate's broken down: 2 games at 7 p.m. Eastern, 1 at 7:30, 1 at 8, and then a standalone at 10 p.m. Eastern. But like I said earlier, we don't have too much news. The biggest news on the slate's in the first game, and we're going to get it. So I say we dive in. The Memphis Grizzlies, the Houston Rockets, big boy total, 238, but Memphis is favored by 10.5. Going to the injury report on the Memphis side: Dylan Brooks out, Xavier Tillman out, and then this Pons guy is questionable. So not the biggest news on that side, but if you go to the Rockets side, Dennis Schroder is questionable. So that's the biggest news we have on the slate as of right now. If he's out, Jalen Green, KPJ, they get a bump a little bit. AP, I'll go over to you first. We have a really big total, but also a big spread with blowout possibilities. I think a couple guys on Memphis could be interesting. We always do like picking on Houston. JSU always talks about bigs against Houston. Pretty much everything against Houston smashes. So any interest in these guys on Memphis and any run backs on Houston if Dennis is out or if he's in?
Yeah, I mean, Grizzlies coming off a blowout win over the Magic, and you get to see what happens when this team blows teams out. They're fine running a pretty wide rotation, 10, 11 guys. So that does present somewhat of a risk because Houston doesn't play any defense. Memphis is really good. It's hard to imagine kind of this game staying close, but it's Sunday. Anything can happen. I like stacking games up a little bit more on Sundays. It's just, especially a spot like this. So if I'm playing John Morant, if I'm playing Steven Adams, 2 of the guys I'm looking at in here, I want to run it back with someone on the Rocket side. I don't know who, and I don't know if I'm actually stacking this game up. I'm just saying, if I were to stack it up. The other route I like here is, DeAnthony Melton's the guy that can produce in, limited minutes. And then typically we'll get a little bit of an extended run before then they bring in their, the scrubs in a blowout. So DeAnthony Melton, 4.5K. He's a guy that I think is a little bit interesting as well. But man, I'm really curious to see what you guys are doing with Steven Adams. I feel like Steven Adams is either going to win you some money or, absolutely crush your lineups. That's usually what we see. Just looking at it, against Chicago, almost a 50 burger. And then against Orlando, the blowout that we're just talking about, 17 points. But again, if you go back and look at all of these centers, I forget who it was that called it out. I think maybe it was K Fallick, but Boogie Cousins, 56, Gobert, 56, Zubac, 45, Zubac, 51. So, I mean, Steven Adams, he can get it done. Really curious to see what you guys are doing. But yeah, that's it for me on this game. I think there are some risks, but also obviously a very good spot for Memphis here.
Yeah, Steven Adams is definitely showing a ceiling, and it's big against Houston, so that definitely makes sense. I got a quick question for you though, AP. When you're talking about stacking games up usually on Sunday, What do you mean by stacking? Is that like one guy on each team? Is it two guys on each team? Is it two guys on one team, at least one on the other? Is there any hard set rule for that, or talk about it?
I mean, I guess sometimes what I've seen in this spot, it's more so like, what do we want when we're playing the Grizzlies, or when we're playing Grizzlies players? We want Houston to be able to keep pace. So sometimes on Sundays, like if you get a team that's just, catching a team that has their guard down a little bit. We haven't really seen that much with Memphis. Memphis is just very good. And honestly, the Rockets should be the team that's shipping it in here. Obviously they want to lose games, rebuilding, which they have been ever since Harden left. So really, really tough spot there. I don't know if I'm going to go here, but maybe you guys can talk me into it if you like this spot.
Man, going, I'll head over to you. You're going to talk AP into some Memphis, and then the Schroder situation. The biggest news on this slate right now, if he's ruled out, what does that do for you? If he's in, is it just a stay away? Talk to the people.
Yeah, I think this spot's kind of easy. Like, if you are going to play Rockets, you play Memphis guys. I think that's just like a simple way to do it. I know it's not like that easy, and you got to obviously like work in the rules and the builder, but like if I was building by hand, if I plug into Kevin Porter Jr. with no Dennis Schroder, I'm getting exposure to something. I don't know what it is, but I got to figure it out. Like Steven Adams at 6'1", that is kind of uncomfortable. And he's 6'9" on FanDuel. That's another thing. Like those price tags are not great for a guy like Steven Adams. So that is going to keep his ownership down on this slate for sure. But I still think he's a good play. I'm at a meeting more today, so I'm definitely going to be playing some Steven Adams. I think getting him in your lineups makes a lot of sense. I think that Ja Morant is another spend up that you can go to on this slate. If you look at all the spend ups today, like there's not like a ton of them, right? Like if you look around the board, there's not a ton of just studs that are above like that 10K range. I mean, you sort by salary here on DraftKings. You got, let's see, I don't want to include the early games by accident, or I think I have the wrong thing up right now. But when I'm looking at the teams, I got Jokic as a top spend, right? You got like a Donovan Mitchell or a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And it's like Ja Morant, right? Like who else is there to spend on? Like Julius Randle? Like
Jokic 12-6, Ja 10-5, SGA 10-4, and then the next is Siakam at 9-4. So yeah, it's three guys in their own range up top.
Yeah. So like, that's like really interesting. I'm curious to see like how like that ownership sets up. Like, let's say we gain like a ton of value. Well, if we gain, and we still have like some value today, but if we gain a lot of value plays today, well, if that's the case, then most teams are going to have two of these studs up top, where then maybe it becomes more interesting to fade all the studs and just play like more of like the 8K range. You get like four of those guys in there with value plays. So we'll have to see how it shakes out. It seems like though these studs are good to pay for. If I am going to play a stud between like, I think SGA, Ja, and let's say Jokic, positions obviously matter. And the salary does too. I kind of lean on Jokic being the number one today. I think Ja could be my number two, but I do worry a little bit about the blowout. If I play Rockets, I will plug Ja in as a really nice run back, because if the game stays close, Ja gets all those minutes. He's going to absolutely crush. And then if I play like Jazz and like Thunder guys together, like that's when SGA would come to the fold. So I think Jokic is the number one today. And then Ja and SGA, I don't think I have like a strong lean on which guy it is. I think it's more so playing out the script of the game and how you think it goes. I don't think it's just like, hey, there's no doubt Ja is the guy. If the Rockets keep the game close, obviously Ja Morant is going to have a really big game. But Steven Adams is that contrarian guy that I'm definitely looking to plug into my lineup. So I don't think I'm looking to play too much Jaren Jackson. I understand this is a good matchup, but I don't need to go there. Desmond Bane is like a fine last guy in, but like when you're shrinking down a player pool, sometimes like if you need to like kind of get rid of a guy, Desmond Bane is someone that I just might kind of kick out of the pool, just because if I need to shorten the pool, I'll throw him out of there. But if I need to add guys to the pool, maybe then he's a guy I throw in, right? Not someone that I'm like jamming on my team. It's more like a last guy in for me.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. A couple people in chat, we said, King Mull, is this the first game? Yeah, there's two games that lock at 7 p.m. Eastern. So this is one, the first game we've talked about too. Going to Glock says this could be like Portland, Minnesota last night. If it stays close, it absolutely goes off. Completely agree. Sloth, is JJJ, Jaren Jackson, a pivot off Adams? Well, I don't think Adams is going to be like crazy popular or anything. So I don't think pivot would be the right word. And I think Jaren Jackson gets some ownership too, but I think Jaren Jackson's a good play. Front court guys absolutely eat up Houston. Jaren Jackson has a big ceiling. And we talk about, or the next person says Clark Locke. King Mall says that. AP, do you have any interest if you think it's maybe a blowout a little bit, not going Adams, not going Jaren Jackson, and getting a little exposure in the front court with a Brandon Clark who's pretty cheap? Would you have any interest there, or pretty much just stay with the starters?
Yeah, I mean, I would take it a step further, and like I don't know, I always just like to get different on Sundays. It doesn't always pan out, but I would take it a step further and look at Kyle Anderson as well. Like you could do some sort of weird stack with the value pieces here. That if you get the right script, you got to have that right script. And what we've seen Jenkins do is if this second unit's playing well, which they have quite often, especially in spots against weaker teams. He lets them run a little bit more. He gives John Morant, a little bit more rest. Desmond Bane gives them, a little bit more rest. So, I don't mind that at all.
Yep, definitely like it. And I agree with you for sure. Before we get in the next game, Joe Lampa said, what about Mitchell? Yeah, I was just naming the studs in the top tier. Mitchell is 9.3K. He's 100 below Siakam. So I was just listening for Mangone, the people above 10K. But Mitchell's definitely a stud to consider, and that leads us right into the next game. 7 p.m. Eastern, Utah Jazz, Oklahoma City Thunder, 221 total. Another big spread. Utah, the biggest favorite, coming in at 13.5-point favorites. The other three games are all a lot more relatively close. Supposed to stay closer than the first two games, but the Jazz, the Thunder go to the injury report. We have some news. OKC side. Giddey, Lou Dort, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Kendrick Williams, Ty Jerome, Derek Favors, Mike Muscala are all out. Aaron Wiggins is questionable. On the Utah side, Mike Conley's out. So that puts Jordan Clarkson. He's only 5K on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he is 4.9K. I think he's one of the best plays on the slate without Conley. We know he has a ceiling there. Outside of him, Donovan Mitchell, I think is a good spend up on the slate. 9.3K makes some sense. We've talked about Trey Mann a lot on this show recently. Rudy Gobert, maybe a little Poku on OKC. Man, I'll go to you. It's a big spread, but I think there's some interesting pieces in this game. And if it stays close, you'd expect Donovan Mitchell to actually smash like he did against Houston last week or whenever it was. So what's your approach on this game?
I think Mitchell and Gobert both can do really well here in this spot. If you look at the price tags on these guys, like Rudy Gobert 8.5, it feels a little, it feels kind of uncomfortable, but we're not there yet, right? Like I kind of get more nervous when it gets a little higher than that, especially when the matchup is so good, right? This is the OKC Thunder. OKC Thunder are a team that you can attack with big men. I think it's a good spot because not only that, the Jazz are not playing that great a defense. And since the Jazz aren't playing great defense, well, I think the Thunder are going to be able to keep this thing tight enough. Like I wouldn't even hate jumping on that 13.5 for the Thunder at home here. I don't think it's like the worst bet. So if I had to pick a side, that's the side that I would go with. But I know it's not a betting show, it's DFS. I think Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, if you think the game does stay close, he's definitely a good spend up option. Poku, I think, is good regardless. If you think about some of these like cheaper guys, like the Mans, Poku, Baisley, even Roby, like if they only get 3 rotations, they can kind of still get there. But if they don't get that 4th rotation, like they're still fine. But SGA not getting his 4th rotation, that could be a bit rough. So I think that if you are worried about the blowout, let's say that that's something you're calculating in, well, then maybe just look at guys like the Pokus and the Baisleys because of what their price tags are at. Maybe that's when you don't go to an SGA. But if you do think this game stays close, and if you think SGA is a big game, I likely want to have Donovan Mitchell ran back or Rudy Gobert because, hey, the Jazz, even if the game blows out, sometimes they kind of still get like their full run. And on these like shorter slates sometimes where you worry about blowout with some games, well, sometimes the Jazz, they just get their run and you don't even have to worry about it, even if the game blows out. So that's kind of like a luxury on a shorter slate. So I like Mitchell. I like Rudy Gobert, definitely 2 guys that I'm looking at on this slate. I think Jordan Clarkson is not a bad option to go to off the bench. And like, if you really want to get different, like Hassan Whiteside at the center position, if for some reason the game happens to blow out and we know he's an elite fantasy producer, let's say you find out that Whiteside is playing 20 minutes tonight against the Thunder, which is certainly possible. And even if it's 15 minutes, like he played 15 minutes against New Orleans and got 31 fantasy points, you would sign up for that at 4.8K or 5.1K. Like, of course, I'm not saying he'll definitely average 2 fantasy points per minute, but it's possible he gets you 20 minutes and he gets you 30 fantasy points that way. So I think Whiteside is a really contrarian tournament play that, like, if you're doing MME stuff, like trying to get him in there is not a bad idea as like a low owned play, just because this is the Thunder. It's one of the most elite matchups for big men here. So definitely like those guys. And like Isaiah Roby at 5'4", another guy who's just been absolutely smashing every single night. It seems like 5'4", it feels like it's kind of expensive. Even on FanDuel, 6'5", it feels expensive, but you could argue he can still get the job done here. And I don't think this Jazz team is elite defensively right now, where I think getting some OKC guys and like stacking this game up a little bit is not a bad idea on this slate.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. That very, very good breakdown. And I thought it was really important. The SGA point you said, if this game stays close, there's 100%, there's no doubt that it's going to be because of SGA. If you look at the 6 games or 5 games since he's been back, 37% usage, 39, 37, 38, 40% usage. You just aren't seeing this in the NBA really. Like he's upper tier. The ball is always in his hand. He always tries to drive, isolate, start the offense, and find his own. And if it's not there, he kicks to an open man, and then he has a potential assist. So everything is running through SGA. The price tag feels expensive. I think he could go a little overlooked, though, because of the spread. But if this game stays close, like you said, Mangone, you have to think it's because he puts up a really nice game. AP, I'll go to you. How are you attacking this game with the big spread, but some pretty decent plays and prices, it looks like?
Yeah, I mean, OKC, one thing that they do is they come to play. Typically, doesn't mean that they're going to win or it's going to stay competitive, but they usually do come to play. Man, a really tough spot. So even in a blowout, I like some of these Jazz guys because I think they're a little bit underpriced when you factor in Conley being out. Clarkson 5K, I think is just phenomenal play. I think, in this spot, Bojan is usually the guy that gets the biggest bump. I think that kind of goes a little bit lost. We're used to Joe Ingles, get in that bump there. So I think he's one of these guys that I have a ton of interest in. I think he, on a Sunday, when you pull up his box score, no one's going to like what they see. 9, 24, 19, 22, 18. I mean, he has some really rough box scores, but this is a nice matchup. I think he's going to be able to get that shot going and get what he wants. Rudy Gobert, again, man, like, I don't like who's going to stop him. Like Isaiah Roby, Roby's not gonna. It's not like Gobert is active on the offensive end of the court anyway, but he does thrive at times in these weaker matchups, which this is definitely one of them. So I definitely have interest in him. So like for me, it's Clarkson, Gobert, Bojan, Donovan. And then and a lot of it also depends on what do I want to accomplish with my build. If I'm spinning up for Jokic, I'm going to be looking at Trent Forrest or whoever they're going to start, in that formerly Joe Ingles spot. So I want to get confirmations with the starting lineup here, but for sure, Donovan Mitchell, Bojan, Gobert. And then as far as runbacks go, yeah, I mean, if you want to go Shea, I think that's fine too. The other thing that I could see happening is, let's just say the Jazz blow them out. Let's just say it's a slate where you don't necessarily need ceiling performances from everyone. Maybe Donovan Mitchell getting a 46, 47 is plenty. Maybe it's a Theo Maledon off the bench that gets the extended run. I mean, he saw the minutes last game. He couldn't make his shots. He was 2 for 10 from the field, but played 25 minutes. Maybe he's one of the guys that you run it back with instead of an expensive Shea. So really interesting game. I think there's very solid plays on the Jazz side. I'm less confident in the Thunder side.
Yeah, very, very good breakdown. Mangone, I got a question for you because AP brought him up, and I think it's interesting. The starting lineup's going to be important, assuming Trent Forrest is the one that does slide into the 2, because that's what I expect. But again, they could go a lot of different ways. 3.1K, he's shooting guard and small forward eligibility on DraftKings, which I know you have to like the guard and forward eligibility. What would you do with him? I mean, it's not like a starter that you're just really like, that's really safe. There's still Donovan Mitchell. There's still Gobert. There's still pieces around that like to shoot the ball, Clarkson, etc. Who knows about the minutes? Like, does he get the blowout run? Does he close the game if it's close? What are your thoughts on a Trent Forrest at 3-1 if he does start?
I think it depends a lot about your construction, right? I don't see myself like needing to jam in like all these studs today, right? Like, I don't think I need to do like a Ja Morant, like Jokic Bill, where if you do that, you need Trent Forrest, right? It's just going to be simple. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to like necessarily like jam him in. I think he's a good value play and one that I'm going to consider, but I kind of want to see, like, I think that balance build might make a little bit more sense today on DraftKings. So we'll kind of have to see. I definitely don't see myself like stars and scrubbing it up though, right? Like maybe if I do, like, I think it's more of like maybe grabbing like, maybe it's an SGA and a Mitchell, right? And then kind of going more some value and balance, which like at that point you can definitely go Forrest, but I just don't think it's like a priority because I think there is some risk that can come to it. At the same time, I do think he's a really good producer when he does get the minutes. The issue is he's going to be playing next to Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, where it's like not the same situation as like past spots where he's had a lot of success. So that's just going to kind of be something that I look at. Like that bench is deeper than people realize. Like that's another thing that's kind of I'm weighing in as well. I don't think it's one of these really great value plays that we've had over like the past week. It seems like we had a lot of really good values, and I don't think he's that if people think that with the projections.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. And I think gauging ownership is going to be interesting. Like AP, if he slides into the starting lineup, what's your approach on it? Is it if he's a starter, are you just going to core him up 3-1? You can get pretty much all the studs. Do you think there's some merit in fading it? Go into that Trent Forrest situation a little more, assuming he is the starter, because it has to be talked about on a slate without a ton of value, but 3-1 with guard and forward eligibility, it has to be talked about as a starting guard.
Yeah, I mean, so one thing that I think is still true, I know it's true during NFL, Title, you know this too, like people rely more on projections in the optimizer when making their builds. We see these plays, if he starts, we see these plays be extremely high owned because they're, he's going to hit a ton of builds and he's going to force in other studs. And so I think I will handle it. Like if I like the build and he's in there and it gets all the other pieces that I like, sure. But I'm not going to over project him. I'm going to give him the fair projection. I was just pulling it up actually, because I'm kind of curious to see where you guys have them. So I have him right at 20 points. So I think even at 20 points, he's going to hit a lot of builds. So like what I will do is I'll lower him to like 18.5 or something. I'll see what my builds look like that. I don't, unless like we get ceiling performances from some of these studs, yeah, he's going to matter. But if we don't, and if we see, kind of these 8K, 9K, or even, a guy like Bojan put up, 38, which he could definitely do. I think that's the route that's going to get you a little bit different on the slate.
Yeah, very, very good breakdown. And for the people out there, like with SaberSim, that's why the partnership with SaberSim is very important with the optimizer and stuff. If you're not a member, check it out, Run For Your Sports SaberSim. But AP, I love what he does. Instead of you and Jordan are always on the SaberSim Thursday shows. Make sure to check it out. But we had
Mangone on this last week, and we had you on the week before. So yeah, I'll be back on this next week. But I appreciate you guys doing that. So yeah, it's a ton of fun with that show.
Absolutely. And you learn, I learned something new from Jordan doing that. And I think I know the optimizer pretty well. So always can learn new stuff with it. But I like what you said. You guys always try and tell people, don't cross off people out of your pool completely, unless you really know you don't want any of them. Instead, drop the projection a couple points. And if they're still hitting your builds, it's probably for a good reason, especially with NBA where projections are more accurate than MLB when Mike Trout can go 0-for-4 any day, or hockey where it's hard to score a goal. Even NFL touchdowns mean so much. So I really like the idea of dropping Forrest a little bit. If he doesn't hit your builds, fine. If he does hit your builds, you're not going to complain about it. So
one thing I like to do, Title, but it's not like this isn't like the perfect spot for it. Like Forrest is 3-1, right? So like he can like really dud and like still kind of be on the winner, like if there's not enough value. But if Forrest is going to be like a 60% play, like you can just X him out of your teams and like play a lot of really good plays around it, right? Like it's just a simple thing that you're able to do sometimes. So if you have a stance that you think the field is on a play that you don't think is as great, well, X him out. Like you can simply run projections and not make like that many tweaks and still have some really good lineups. So that's sometimes something I'll do. The problem is he's like a 3-1 guy. I like more when it's like a 5K guy or a 6K guy. That's when I kind of like doing that. Or maybe it's like a stud at the top where there's another stud that I'd rather go to. Or hey, like sometimes if you have a stud at the top, they could get you 50 fantasy points, but that might just not be the right build. So sometimes I don't mind just Xing out like the most popular guy, and Forrest looks like he could be one of the most popular guys right now, and then just running stuff from there. That way I don't have to overthink too much. It's just really simple from there. Get overweight on the guys that I want to from there. If that big stand works out, I put myself in a really good spot with some really good teams.
No, I think that's a very good point. You just have to like, excuse me, the optimizer does what you tell it to. You have to know your risk tolerance. If you're Xing out Jokic, SGA, etc., you have to be okay with a lot less back and a lot more range of outcomes with your money because you're taking more stands. For me, if Isaac Okoro is ever popular on a slate, the first thing I do if I'm playing tournaments, he's Xing out of all my builds. If he goes off, if Cleveland's really short, he goes off, sure, I'm going to probably lose money that day. However, if you want to be safer, you lower the points a couple like AP, and then you see if he hits the build. So there's a lot of ways you can do it. That SaberSim, a very good tool. Make sure you go check it out. Also, hit that like button for us. Hit that subscribe button for us, please. Not going to set a number. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us on a Sunday, picking some winners, but hit that like and that big red subscribe button. Next game on the slate, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Toronto Raptors, Cleveland Cavaliers, 210 total. Cleveland is favored by 4.5. On the Toronto side, this is where the news comes in, and it's new news that we've had recently. Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby out. DJ Wilson out. But Malachi Flynn is now out too, who has been running the point guard position. This is the first day. Very interesting news on this slate. Going to the Cleveland side, LeVert and Rondo doubtful. Colin Sexton is out. Man, it's going to be interesting. I'm hoping it's finally going to be slide Trent up to the point guard where he's played a little bit, slide Scotty Barnes up, Siakam up, and throw Chris Boucher in there is what I want to see, because we know all starters, not all starters, but if Nurse playing starters, except if your name is Ken Birch, you're pretty comfortable with your role because Nurse relies on the starters. Boucher, I always like playing him. The minutes are always a concern though. So if he does indeed start, I'd feel a lot better about him. 3.9 on DraftKings would be a very strong play, I think. But who knows what he does with the lineup. I'm going to go back to you, Mangone. Are you kind of predicting Boucher to start to slide up Trent to the point guard? And how are you tackling this game? Because we haven't seen Malachi Flynn out, Fred VanVleet out, and Anunoby out. So it's a new situation. Don't have all the data. Talk about the Toronto side. Anybody on Cleveland you want to run back?
Yeah, if they weren't playing Cleveland, I think you wouldn't see this lineup. But because it's Cleveland, I think you are going to see them mix in these bigs a lot more. And like the one thing I haven't liked about Gary Trent lately, I think his role has been hurt a little bit with Malachi Flynn. Yes, the shot attempts have been there, but I just think the range of outcomes on Gary Trent have been a bit.
I agree with you. The ball handling and how much he's had, like the rhythm and all that too. It's way different than when he started at point guard that one game or two games than what it has been. I agree with you.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I think this is a good spot to like, while people might be more hesitant on Gary Trent, I want to push on Gary Trent. Also, I might want to come off Barnes a little bit more in this spot because Barnes, I think he's a nice, fun young player, but he's a guy that likes to drive to the hoop a bit, and driving to the hoop against Cleveland is not easy to do. And also he's been better when there's been a Malachi Flynn, more of like a traditional kind of point guard in there, where I think that has helped a little bit too. So I like Trent over Scotty Barnes if I have to pick one. Of course, you can like both. I think they're both fine options. It's obviously a decent spot for them, but this is a lower total, 210 total. Pascal Siakam, another guy that I think he's been hurt a little bit by not having as much ball handling responsibilities with the Malachi Flynn stuff. So I think Pascal is in a decent spot. I do worry about the matchup a little, but hey, there's not a ton of spends on this slate. So I think Pascal and Trent are two of my favorites in this game, along with Boucher. I should mention him because if he starts, he's just too cheap. He's underpriced for the situation because he's going to get a pile of minutes. So ranking-wise, I would probably rank it as like Boucher's probably number 1, Trent 2, and then Pascal 3. Those are probably my 3 favorite Raptors. Again, I don't hate Scotty Barnes. Ken Birch at 3K. Yeah, you would get away with it. I don't think it's the worst thing to do on the slate, but those are the 3 guys that I would be keying in on the Raptors. And then on the Cavaliers side, Darius Garland, he's at an 8.6 price tag, which like 8.6 is a lot, but like, again, there's not a lot of stuff on this slate where like he could be the highest scorer on this one. So I don't think he's a bad option. Jared Allen, he's at that 7.6K price tag. They're going to need his size. He can certainly hit a ceiling game. Same with Evan Mobley. He could easily have a big game. Those are guys that I could mix and match if I play like 2 Raptors on a team and I want to run back a Cav. I'm perfectly fine with those guys kind of like hitting my teams, but not guys that I'm forcing out of my teams. I do feel a lot better about like Boucher, Siakam, and Trent Jr. Those 3, those are guys that I definitely want to make sure I have a lot of exposure to on this slate, and I'll definitely be overweight on them.
Yeah, I think that breakdown definitely was really good. And Garland, like, we wouldn't be surprised. He just put up a 66 piece. Like, he very easily, and I say very easily like it's a likely outcome, but if we were told Garland was the highest scorer on the slate, we wouldn't be surprised at the end of the night. I mean, he has that upside. The usage is there. So I like that call too. And it makes sense. I agree with you that Gary Trent would get a big bump for me because he slides into the point guard role. Whereas like Scotty Barnes and Siakam, if they do start Boucher at the 4, the rebounding peripherals go down for all those guys. Since Boucher is another big body, that's a good rebounder. So that's something to consider. I still would not play Ken Birch. He's the one starter from Toronto that he's just out there. Then I don't know why he starts. He shouldn't start, but he's the one that you can't feel safe with his minutes. Everyone else's you pretty much can. AP, I'll go to you. How are you approaching this Toronto side? Do you think it's going to be Boucher starting too against this big Cleveland lineup? And then anybody on Cleveland that you like running it back with?
Yeah, I like the comments there from Mangone. I think that's a really sharp take. I think Gary Trent, I think people are going to look at the box scores and just assume that maybe he's broken, but now the ball is going to be in his hands a little bit more. I don't think they really trust Banton, dude that played for Nebraska. Actually, he's been a good surprise though when he's been out there on the season, which hasn't been that much, but he would be a good like G League type guy. Go develop a little bit more, but they're very thin. So I think, I think Big T is the one that always says it. Like, just always like these Raptors guys because the tight rotations hasn't really worked out of late. Like the games against Orlando and Detroit have been just brutal. But this is an important game. I think the Raptors are in 6th in the East, and I think the Raptors are in 7th, and the Cavs are in 6th in the East. Both teams. This is a really important game. These teams have only played once, I believe, and that was back in like December. Where the Raptors just had all their scrubs. I think they're dealing with COVID stuff. I think Boucher, Siakam, Gary Trent, all phenomenal plays. Scotty Barnes is like the one I'm a little bit, I don't necessarily know what to do, but I know that he's going to get you 38 plus minutes. So I think he's definitely in play on a slate like this. And then there's Darius Garland. I think he is one of the best plays on the slate. This guy, I played him against Charlotte, and they got blown out at home, which was unfortunate because he came alive there in the 4th. And then their coach like takes him out for a few minutes, and then like he was going to check back in, but Kelly Oubre hit like 3 or 4 threes in a row, and then the game was just over. And so they brought him back on the bench. It was just really hurtful to see, but followed it up with a loss in Philly. But again, he took 22 shots and played a ton of minutes. I think he's going to have to play a ton of minutes here unless they blow them out, which I don't see them doing just because something, I don't know what it is, but something is off. But Garland is still producing. So for me, it is Garland and then probably like a Gary Trent and Boucher is kind of how I see myself building my lineups tonight.
I like it for sure. I definitely agree. We also, the news that we were waiting on, Dennis Schroder, we did get, he is ruled out. Mangone, do you have any initial thoughts on that? We can always come back to that news after we talk about the last 2 games, but any initial thoughts on the Dennis Schroder being out?
I mean, it's going to just help the guys that like to handle the ball a little bit, right? Like Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, that's going to be key for them because there's not a guard that goes in there and steals the minutes. Like if you just, let me just read the bench to you, and this will just sum it up easily. So you have Kevin Porter Jr., you got Jalen Green, you got Eric Gordon. You could see Eric Gordon slide the 2 at times, but he is technically a starter, right? So now here's the bench guys. KJ Martin, he's not really a ball handler. Garrison Matthews, more of a shooter. Sengun, yes, I'll have the ball in his hands, but he's a big man, so he's not going to soak up those minutes. John Christopher, he could maybe soak up some minutes of the 2, but he's not going to handle the ball that much, right? David Nwaba, Bruno Fernando, Trevlin Queen, like Dacian Nix, like again, Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green, their like minutes seem like really kind of safe and secure, regardless of what happens. You're going to want to still develop these guys unless Kevin Porter, has a temper tantrum. Maybe then he sits on the bench, but these guys feel like really good options at their price tags. And yes, the Grizzlies matchup is not the greatest in the world, but it has felt like since the Rockets have had this more tighter rotation where you really see like the core guys of Porter, Green, Gordon, Tate, and Wood together, it does feel like they've gotten some more synergy and they're playing a little bit of better basketball. And I think sometimes you see that when rotations get tighter. So I think those guys are really good options to go to. So Porter and Green and even Gordon, they get some bumps for me. Tate is not a bad last guy in. And Wood is okay today. Not someone I'm like slamming on my teams. I'd rather a Steven Adams over a Wood instead.
Yeah, very good breakdown. I definitely agree with it. And I think K Falik, you can add him in Discord. I don't know if he's playing today. I assume he's playing unless he's busy. But Adam, he's the Rockets guy. But I assume he's going to say the same thing. Be on KPJ, be on Jalen Green for all the reasons you said, Mangone. So definitely do agree with that breakdown. I saw people in chat earlier. Someone said, we're done with KPJ finally or hopefully or something like that. So he might be another Gary Trent that people don't want to go back to. But yeah, he definitely gets a boost with Dennis Schroder.
What's wrong with KPJ? Like, why do people not want to play him? Like he has a clear ceiling, right? It's just a matter if the shots fall in. It's like, okay, if the shots fall in, which he shot 2 for 8 last game from 3 for 12, still got 31 minutes. But if those shots fall, maybe he gets more minutes because the game doesn't blow out. And then like you have the runbacks there. I mean, the thing I like a lot about the Rockets is if the Rockets are in a close and competitive game, then it's pretty easy to figure out who is going to get it done on the other side. You just pick the best players that are on that team, like a Ja Morant, maybe go to Steven Adams because it's a really good matchup. And it just feels like it prints. Like, yes, there are days where it will not work out. There are days where the Rockets will struggle. But when you do get the Rockets in a close and competitive game, you get those crazy ceiling outcome gains, which is really nice. And that's how you win GPPs. It's just simple.
Yep. No, I agree with you. Definitely. 5 games on the slate. We got through 3 games so far. This game, 4th game on the slate, 8 p.m. Eastern, New Orleans Pelicans, Denver Nuggets, 229 total. Denver is favored by 3.5. On the Denver side, Zeke Naji is questionable. That's the only news over there. Going to the Pelican side, let's see. Zion, Larry Nance, Kyra Lewis, all out. So nothing has changed on the Pelican side. They're relatively healthy. CJ McCollum, he's been playing good basketball, 8.8K. If you want to live in that lower than 9K range, just fade 9K and up. The D Mitches, Pascal Siakam, Jokic, SGA, all that stuff. A Garland and CJ McCollum build's probably going to go lower owned. You could fade like a Trent Forrest or something. I think that's interesting. And we know CJ does have upside. Jokic at 12.6, man, that's a big boy price tag. Raw points, easily the highest scorer, I think, on the slate, but 12.6 a lot. AP, I'll go to you. Talk about this game. I'm not seeing as much that I like, but it's a close spread. It's a decent total. So am I missing something?
I mean, I like how this Pelicans team looks. They've won 4 in a row. I think they've won, like 8 or 9 out of their last, 13 with CJ McCollum, with picking him up. I think he's a good addition. And I was just reading the other day, it looks like Zion hopefully lost some weight, but looks like he might be rejoining the team here soon. We'll see. I don't even know what kind of impact that he could have, but if they have
the old Zion, he'll make an impact.
Well,
the old one, but I'm worried about.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where he comes out and plays in 3 to 5 minute bursts or whatever, and just mess. CJ McCollum for me, I think, is a really good play tonight. He's just been a beast. I like him right at 8.8K. He's been producing, especially in games that stay close. So I like him to get us in the 40 range, maybe 44 to 46, which at 8.8, if we're going that mid-tier build, I think you're going to want to have. Obviously it's going to force you to fade Jokic, but he's 12.6. So, I mean, we could get the value and Jokic could come out and just smash, but at 12.6, if Jokic gets you 50, and if we don't have all of that elite value, 50 to 55, and we don't have that elite value, I mean, you're going to be hurting. So, I'm probably off the Nuggets here. I'm not seeing too much over there. The other thing too is Boogie Cousins is starting to play pretty well there off the bench. I mean, he was phenomenal against Houston. Obviously, an easy matchup. I was also surprised by his ownership. That was a slate where I wish I would have maxed out the $15 or whatever. I think I went into the bigger main tournaments that they had that night, and he was right around 45, 50% owned. I thought he was going to be 70, 80%, but he ended up crushing. So I'm off the Nuggets, and for me on the Pelicans, it's CJ McCollum. If I were to land on Herb Jones at 4-4, last man into my lineups, a value piece, I would be perfectly fine for it. I think he's a solid player, has a good role, plays good minutes, and can get you around 30 fantasy points with a decent floor as well.
Yeah, Herb Jones, I 100% agree with you on that. I lockstep on this game. I will say on FanDuel, this is where you look at DraftKings, FanDuel, the difference of pricing. 12.6 for Jokic on DraftKings. He's only 10.9 on FanDuel, so much, much better play on FanDuel, a lot easier to get, but ownership's going to reflect that. So it's not like a sneaky call or anything, but just know 10.9 FanDuel, too cheap for Jokic. 12.6, that's a hefty price for Jokic for sure on a slate without the most value as of now. So, Mangone, how do you see this game?
Yeah, I do say AP. I did MME that day with the Cousins, and I felt like I was set to print everything until my 100% Will Barton on FanDuel got me 20 fantasy points.
I had Will Barton too. It was so hurtful.
It was so painful because I only lost a little bit of money too, but it was how bad Will Barton has been horrific. I mean, he has been so bad at basketball as of late. It's just it's so frustrating. But
you can't tell people about KPJ when you're talking about Will Barton and you going back to a Mangone. I mean, it's been so bad you wouldn't play him.
I had a pivot to, I could have gone Bones and then up to Julius Randle. I think that was the slate. And he ended up getting ejected from that game. And
Yeah.
man, poor K Fallick. That would make it 3 times in a row because I know K Fallick was on Julius Randle. Was very high on him on the show. Loved the matchup and just said Randle was going to smash. Randle came out just on fire, smashing, gets a bullshit call. I think early in the third quarter or something, or I forget when it was, but ended up getting ejected.
Yeah, it was very hurtful, but yeah, Fallick has definitely he's had like a great run and like a rough run all at once.
He shit yesterday in MMA, the captain slate or televised slate, a slate no one plays. He puts in 300, he ships $8,000. I mean, he's running his peers all can be.
Yeah.
He is seeing it pretty good right now.
He is.
Yeah,
keep it up, K Fallick.
A guy who I don't know if he's seeing it as good as Jokic has not been like himself lately, right? He's definitely hasn't been as great. It does feel like maybe there's some fatigue from like the whole season kind of taking a toll on him a little bit. Now, if he's not going to be owned, it's kind of interesting, but I'm not currently excited about playing Jokic, and it's because, hey, the 12-6 price tag and the other values on the slate, I'm just not as excited about. Now, if we gain a lot of value, let's say that randomly, like, I don't know, like Reggie Jackson and like Zubac were out. Well, like, and they only had 8 guys or something. Like, then yes, Jokic would become like one of the better plays on the slate because a lot of people would be considering Jokic because there's a lot of value. So we don't have as much value that I love on this slate where Jokic is tougher to roster because of that perspective as well. So I'm not really jumping to roster a lot of Nuggets. I also haven't been as impressed with the way they've been playing basketball as of late. So I think some of these Pelicans are interesting. I also think the Pelicans can win this game outright. Also, Valanciunas is going to pull Jokic away from the boards a little bit, which that could hurt his rebound rate some. I think CJ McCollum at 8-8, Brandon Ingram at 8-3. They're both good options. It is just a bit of a guessing game with them, which can be frustrating. And if you do believe that Valanciunas and Jokic can pull each other away from the boards at times, well, that's pretty good for Jackson Hayes at 4.9. He could really get that quick double-double in the first half, and you'd be feeling really good at 4.9K sitting on a Jackson Hayes. So I think he's a really interesting option and a really intriguing value that maybe people aren't going to be on for this slate.
Makes sense. What about JoVal? None of us have talked about JoVal. They're gonna have him out there. I mean, to match Jokic's minutes, you'd think. Any interest in JoVal? He's sub 8K, 7.3K, just center eligible. But what do you think about that, Mango?
No, he's a really good play. Like, it does always feel like these guys, like when Jokic goes against like some of these other Euros, like the Vucevics and the Sabonis.
Nurkic does really well against them.
Yeah. It feels like they just all like kind of do really well against each other. Like, I don't know, like Jokic just lets them or something. I have no idea. So, 7-3 for Valanciunas. I'm interested, Title. I think it's someone that I'm going to look to get exposure to on this slate. Seems like a really good option. And yeah, it's the only thing that's unfortunate with the Pelicans is they kind of feel like the Bulls of like the West, where like, especially when Zion returns, like you're going to kind of have to play a guessing game with them, which can be frustrating, but price shopping is not a bad idea. And that Valanciunas price tag at 7.3 is really good right now.
Yeah.
I want to add in Sabonis put up a 63 and almost 50 piece against Jokic. So
yeah,
there we go.
Great.
The little Euro narrative. I like it.
He's always finding them, and I agree with them. I like him. You notice it though. Big T's talked about it a little bit too. But when Zion gets back, if he gets back, I think this is going to be like a Bulls team when they're fully healthy, even with Caruso, Lonzo, and they just have so many mouths. I doubt I could count to these Pelicans when he's back, but don't have to worry about that right now. Decent game, close spread, probably a pretty fun one to watch tonight. Last game on the slate, this one's 10 p.m. Eastern by itself. The New York Knicks, the Los Angeles Clippers, 220.5 total. The Clippers are favored by 5.5. On the Clippers side, PG, Kawhi, Norman Powell, JSURab, Preston, nothing different on the Clippers side. Same guys out as usual. On the Knicks side, Obi Toppin, Nerlens Noel, Quentin Grimes, Kemba, Derrick Rose, Taj Gibson, all of them are out. So nothing too different over there. AP, I'll go to you. RJ Barrett, I know you talked about him a lot on the free show. It was a tough matchup, but 7.9K, like his price has steadily been rising. No one ever really plays him. He has a ceiling for sure. So is it a RJ Barrett game? Alec Burks, 5.7. Julius Randle, 9.2. I think he kind of goes overlooked as a stud. He sat out long enough as he had ejection, so he can go and play 40 minutes in this game. What do you think in the Clippers and the Knicks?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting basically an 8-man rotation where like your key guys are getting all the minutes here. So I think on a slate like this, the other thing is this game, since it's on an island and it's the last game and it's the Knicks Clippers, I think it goes a little overlooked, but you're getting 40 minutes from RJ Barrett. You're getting maybe 38 plus from Randall. I think those are two guys that I'm really interested in. They kind of steal from each other. We see, one go off, then the other one can go off, but I'm going to give them both fair projections above where the industry standard is, and just leave it alone. If they land in my build, they land in my build. The other thing that I want to say is they haven't been good defensively at all. And when I'm looking at this Clippers team, I mean, Reggie Jackson's been playing really good basketball. I pivot to him on that slate.
The 66 piece. I know which one.
Yeah.
I heard you on the show. Nice pivot. Nice.
Yeah,
pivot
but LeBron, I think I still fell short though, so it didn't really matter.
Because LeBron had the yesterday game that you wanted that day. I mean, what about yesterday? Though?
Yeah, I played him yesterday too.
Me too. He put on a show.
The Wash King got it done for us.
Yeah.
My dad was at that game, so he was texting
what a
me.
game! What a game!
Yeah, JSU said we can't talk about LeBron anymore, though, so we'll digress. Reggie Jackson, though, I mean, if we look at what point guards have done to the Clippers, campaign, big game. Harden put up an 80 piece against them. Kyle Lowry had a big game. I think we could go back to Reggie Jackson in a game stack, or if we're playing, not necessarily a game stack, but if we're playing RJ Barrett or Randall, and you want to run back, I think you could go with Reggie Jackson here. 8-7, no one's going to play him. Like, I don't think anyone's going to play him. He was 2% on that other night. So if you want leverage on this slate, and man, there are a lot of good guard plays. So like there's risk to it, like Garland, CJ McCollum, Donovan Mitchell, John Morant, all of those guys, Shea, really good plays, maybe better plays than Reggie Jackson. But if you're a tournament player and you're MMEing, it's a Sunday. We see weird things happen. I wouldn't be surprised to see like a Reggie Jackson plus RJ Barrett or Julius Randle kind of ship it on this island game.
You have FanDuel cores on Sunday too, right? You got double duty, both.
Yeah,
DraftKings,
yeah.
FanDuel?
We'll get them up.
No, I'm saying that because I'm assuming Reggie Jackson's going to be in your FanDuel core for sure. Then he's 7K on FanDuel. He's 8-7 on DraftKings. So big price difference there. But yeah, no one's going to play him on DraftKings. If he gives you another 66 burger like he did last week, I'll play him at 10K and he'll break the slate at 2%. So definitely a good call there. Man, I'll go to you. First of all, is Rubio on the Showdown playbook today? Island game Sunday night, I assume decent prize pools. So might have the Showdown content up, and Rubio has done very, very good job at that. So make sure you check that out in Discord. I didn't know if you know if he is, but I think this game does get a little overlooked, and you know where the minutes are going for the most part. So little late night hammer being the only one moving up the leaderboard, or what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I don't hate it for sure. It's definitely a decent spot. Mitchell Robinson he had a big game against Phoenix. I was surprised he had that game. I just pulled up the logs on that. I didn't even realize he went off as much as he did on Friday. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to that game as much, but he does have the upside. And like Zubac is a defender that like you can easily play a Mitchell Robinson in GVPs. That's kind of contrarian. I don't think it's a bad idea. So I don't mind that there in this spot. I like the Reggie call on FanDuel, obviously someone that I'll like there. Marcus Morris, don't mind him in this spot. I believe that's a revenge game for him. I can't remember which Morris was on the Knicks, but I think it was Marcus. So a little revenge game for him. Yeah, his rebound rate, I feel like, has suffered a little bit, but shots are there, and you never know when that can pop back up. So at 5-7, that's not a bad price tag for him. Zubac, he's been pretty good. Don't mind what he's been doing. But 6-8 is starting to get a little bit of a heftier tag. I think I'd rather have Steven Adams in the matchup against the Rockets instead. If you look at the Knicks, RJ Barrett, yes, the price feels expensive. I totally agree with you. But the thing I noticed on this slate is look at the small forward position. Like, you just don't have guys to spend on it small forward. Brandon Ingram, 8-3. RJ Barrett, 7-9. Scotty Barnes, 7K. There are no small forwards really above 7K. It's only 3 of them. So I do think if you decide to spend down at some spots, maybe you get forced up to spend to an RJ Barrett, and like people might not do that. And I think it's not a bad idea. I think it's a really nice contrarian route to take on this slate. So I like the idea of an RJ Barrett in GVPs. I definitely will have some exposure to him. Cam Reddish is kind of a contrarian idea that I wanted to talk about. Now, this is not a projection play, right? Projections will not like him. It kind of feels like a big T play where like you're kind of taking a risk with it. And also you have to deal with Tom Thibodeau. But against Philadelphia, he played 24 minutes. Then against the Phoenix, he played 14 minutes. There is the potential for it to pop up. At some point, those shots are going to fall, and like Thibodeau's just going to have to play him. And I don't know if today is certainly that day, but if you are looking for contrarian type values, like this is a day to do it. There's not a lot of great value. This is kind of one of these slates where creating your own values can have a really big advantage. And I think that Cam Reddish could be one of those on this slate. So I like him in tournaments. I think if you take a shot on him, there is a chance it could work out. There's also a chance it could really fail and fall on its face. But again, he's 3.5K. You can get away with it on these slates. It's not like, hey, the Portland Trailblazers are only have 8 guys and they're in a smash spot. And if you take that risk, you're going to get absolutely buried. I don't think you get as buried for taking these risks on some of these cheaper guys on this slate. So I think the Cam Reddish risk is not a bad one to take here. I didn't talk about Alec Burks enough. Price tag on FanDuel is only 5.1. 5.7 on DK. He's seen over 30 minutes in his last 4 games. He's going to shoot the ball up a ton. He's in that nice point guard role. I think he's definitely an interesting option that you can go to. And Julius Randle, he's definitely going to be a decent spend up you can go to here against the Clippers. So there's a lot to like.
Definitely do agree. That was all 5 games. Trent Forrest isn't out starting like we did predict. So that's cool to see. News is starting to hit. Excuse me. News is starting to hit. We don't have too much news on the slate. But you never know, especially on Sundays, NBA in general, like Jokic a couple nights ago, Friday night, all of a sudden real questionable, flips the slate on the head. And in Discord, BigT, JSU, everyone on the show, all over it, switched to Boogie, Barton, unfortunately, but always in Discord, making updates. You never know what's going to hit in the NBA slate. So make sure head over to Run Pure Sports, check it out. If you want the Saber Sim package too, $150 a month, very good value. And also hit that like button and hit that subscribe button for us, please. Haven't asked about it too much, but giving you the plays of the day. We appreciate you guys hanging in there, having fun with us. But we'll get into it. Plays of the day. I'm going to go to myself first because I don't want it taken. I know where I'm going to go. It is a spend up, but he's my favorite spend up, and I don't think he's going to be as popular as he should be. And it's going to be SGA at 10.4K. I'm not going to play Jokic. I'm not going to play Ja. SGA is my favorite tournament spend. I'm going to play someone on the Utah side. Clarkson's the easy play. He's too cheap. He has a lot of upside. But you can even go in SGA, Donovan Mitchell, and SGA Gobert. And that usage, I just cannot get away from. 37, 39, 37, 38, 40. The ball's always in his hand. He has big minute upside. And if this game's close, it's because of him. So give me SGA as the SL play of the day. It's going to be lower owned. He's not going to be 1%. It's not a no-name guy, but he's going to be in my core. I will tell you that. AP, I'll head over to you, the gentleman's call of the day.
Yeah, I'm going to stay in that same game, actually, and I'm going to go Bojan Bogdanovic, coming off a 1-for-11 game. As Mangone also said, small forward, not like, unless you're punting with Forrest, not like a lot of options. So, Bojan, I like where he's at. I think he's going to be pretty low owned relative to where I think he should be.
I like it for sure. Yeah, you can go in SGA, run it back of Bojan too. So like that call. Sweet Travis, play of the day. Cap it off for us.
Yeah, I kept going back and forth. It looks like Steven Adams might have more ownership than I'm realizing. So I was going to say him, but let's go with Mitchell Robinson because he's someone that I'm going to have it in my MME formats. The upside he has is crazy. And like the Clippers, they're not a great defensive team against big men. And like Zubac is certainly someone that you can attack down low. So I would not be surprised if we see Mitchell Robinson out there just looking like Shaquille O'Neal like he has like a couple times this year. So let's go with Mitchell Robinson. Super low and play on this slate. And I like when we have these slates where we don't have all these obvious value plays. So I think Mitchell Robinson can easily get you like 40 to 50 tonight and can be a GPP winner at very low ownership.
I like it. I can always get behind a Mitchell Robinson play because we do know the upside he has. Slick Derulo, before you even mention the name in the Knicks breakdown, talked about how he's had some monster games. So I can get on board on that one. Mitchell Robinson, Bojan Bogdanovic, SGA, the 3 plays of the day. Fun 5-game slate. If any news hits, we're going to be in Discord as always. Cash chart, playbook Gary's on. I assume that's probably up right now. Will be soon. Core play is going to be up. We'll be in Discord. Let's have some fun. Let's stay hot. Ask K Falik in chat if he's got a core too. He's riding hot. Soon he'll be playing as well. But that's going to do it for us. Hit that like button. Hit that big red subscribe button on your way out. Head over to Run Pure Sports. Check it out. Check out the Saber Sim package, $150 a month. Hope you guys have a great night. We'll be back tomorrow, as always, kicking off the week with some winners. But for Mangone, AP, Simon behind the sticks, I'm Titletown. Good luck, everybody.